Jacinth of Giles Head, Book 1, Bloodkin, by Kathy Ashford, Chapter 27. Slowly the globe came to life and I could see where we were. Thaelic looked at me expectantly, still gripping my hand. We were at the top of a very steep, very narrow circular staircase built into the wall of the tavern. I carefully led the Queen down, the globe held out in the other hand. The stairs twisted down, far below the level of the street, and eventually opened to reveal a tunnel. The walls and floor of the tunnel were rough, dry stone. The air was cool but old-smelling, as if no one had come this way for some time. The first right branch of the tunnel was a couple of 100 metres from the bottom of the stairs. Thaelic clung to my hand as we hurried around the corner and straight down the tunnel that twisted and turned reasonably frequently, but led in the general direction of the hills. Every so often we could hear screaming and shouts from the streets above, the thumping of booted feet running past, and the occasional explosion, which made the walls of the tunnel shudder. The Queen squealed and gripped me even tighter as dust drifted down from the ceiling. Our run through the tunnel seemed to take forever, the tiny globe illuminating only the barest patch of the way ahead of us, before the tunnel stretched into what seemed like eternal darkness. Finally it twisted around a slight corner and ended abruptly at a solid stone wall. A sort of ladder was carved into the rock on one side, and I looked up to see it led to a grate in the ceiling, cut much higher than the roof the rest of the way. I listened carefully for sounds above us, but the only noise I could hear through the grate were muffled and distant. "Wait here, I'll go check it out." I reluctantly let go of Thaelic's hand and scaled the stone ladder to the top. Holding the globe and the ladder with one hand, I tentatively pushed at the gate above me. To my surprise, it lifted easily and fell to the side, sending in a shaft of sunlight that blinded me for a second after the dark of the tunnel. I glanced down quickly at Thaelic, who was looking up at me eagerly, and she grinned and gave me a totally uncharacteristic thumbs up. "Wait here, okay?" I called down to her as quietly as I could. Slowly, I pulled myself higher up the ladder and extended my head out of the hole into the sunny afternoon. I looked around and saw that I was peeking out of an old, unused well. I could see the back of a house, built in the human-style grey slate that backed onto the outside wall of the quarter. Grass grew long and untended around the well. Gingerly, I placed one foot on either side of the open grate and levered myself up and out of the hole, climbing over the side of the well and dropping down to the grass beside it. I scanned the area and pocketed the globe, and, satisfied that there was no one else in the back section, stuck my head over the side of the well and called down to Thaelic. Half a minute later, her fair head appeared through the grate, and I took her arms in mine and helped her over the wall of the well. When she was standing safely on the grass beside me, I reached down and swung the grate closed over the tunnel entrance. "Oh, that was fun. Where to now, Jacinth?" Thaelic giggled and leaned into my shoulder. If I wasn't so shit-scared and sick, I would have enjoyed the closeness. As it was, Anna's urgency had terrified me, and I barely even registered the press of her body. "Right, we have to get to the hills and the tunnel to the other side." "Another tunnel? Oh, brilliant!" She smiled at me brightly. I was concentrating too hard to really hear her, listening to the sounds from the streets. I heard angry shouts and the hubbub of voices. It sounded as if a lot of people were moving quickly past the house. "Your Majesty, take my hand. Please, Jacinth, call me Thale. All my friends do," she interrupted, but took my hand, squeezing it gently. "Now, I'm going to create a visibility shield around us, so stay close to me, okay?" "Oh, that won't be hard. You're so talented, Jacinth." Any other time but this, I would have taken great pleasure in the slightly ribald tone to her words, but now I was trying to concentrate, and I needed her to stop talking. "Please, Thale, we must be very quiet." "Oh, okay, Jacinth. My safety is paramount. I'll be quiet as a mouse." She grinned at me before we both disappeared as I completed the shield. She gripped my hand tightly as we edged our way, invisible, around the side of the house. Out on the street we paused, pressed close to the wall as an angry crowd gathered, pushing past on their way to the quarter. I felt ill. What the hell was happening here? "Come on," one man yelled. "Let's go get the dirty elephant bastards. They've killed the Queen." The crowd roared, and I saw the flashes as sharp blades were unsheathed and the furious press of people moved past us. What the hell? They couldn't seriously think the Neathi had tried to hurt Thayleek. A murderous frenzy rolled off the crowd as angry shouts urged them forward to attack the quarter. She's fine, I wanted to scream at them. She's right here! But I knew with terrifying certainty that if Thayleek and I were to reveal ourselves now, that the maddened crowd would turn on us and butcher us within seconds. Let's kill all the effing grey sons of whores! A woman screamed close by as more people surged past. Oh, no. Oh, sweet Lewis, no! Charlie was in there. Talgoth and Lalitha were in there. And I was helpless to do anything to assist them, to warn them even. Damn it all to hell! I grasped Thayleek's invisible hand tighter and we edged down the side of the street, hugging close to the walls. I could feel sweat beginning to bead on my forehead with the concentration of keeping up the visibility shield. We edged round a quarter onto a quieter back street, and I pulled Thayleek down in the direction of the hills. If I thought that dash underneath the quarter had taken ages, then the short trip outside to the entrance of the hill tunnel seemed to take hours. Every time there was a shout or people ran past us, I had to pause and press the Queen against a wall as I concentrated hard. Worse were the sounds of explosions from the quarter, followed by distant shrieks of terror and pain, as I grimly led Thayleek away from the fighting. After what seemed an interminable period of time, we at last ducked around a corner and found ourselves in the shadow of the hills, the open maw of the tunnel through them wide and open. I quickly scanned the area and, seeing no one nearby, pulled the Queen across the street. We dashed into the mouth of the tunnel, pressing up against the sides as I checked back along the streets to make sure no one had seen us. The tracks for the steam carriage stretched away ahead of us. The whole thing was only dimly lit by large globes hanging from the high, rounded ceilings. "Come on, let's go," I whispered to Thayleek. Out of the daylight, I gratefully dropped the visibility cloak, but the Queen still gripped my hand as she came back into view. We half ran, half stumbled into the tunnel. It rounded a gentle bend, and the light from outside disappeared behind us. Already out of breath, I grimly pulled Thayleek down the middle of the great steel tracks, trying to listen for the telltale vibrations that indicated an oncoming carriage. Up ahead, I could see the tunnel curve away to the left, and then, to my horror, I felt the unmistakable rumble of the heavy carriage on the tracks. I glanced around wildly. We needed to get off the tracks immediately or the carriage would crush us. I spotted a small natural alcove a short distance ahead as the rumbling of the steam engines grew loud enough for Thayleek to hear. "Oh shit, Jasseth! Is that a carriage?" A split second was all I needed to make the decision. I yanked Thayleek's arm and pushed her roughly behind me as we sprinted towards the alcove and towards the incoming carriage. The rumble became a deafening roar as we raced for the alcove. It was taking all my resolve not to turn and run away from the carriage. Just a few more meters, just a few more steps, and I shoved the Queen roughly off the track as there was a huge whoosh of steam engines and the enormous bright lights of the carriage as it rounded the curve and rushed towards us. End of chapter 27.